And welcome to a massive round one episode of In the Back Pocket. We got Nathan Brown, Zach Toohey, Kate McCarthy. We'll get to that in a moment. She's away on a very, very special occasion. Nathan Brown, you've had a fantastic week, I'm sure.
It's been great. Can't wait for footy to start. Opening round, it's okay. But when it becomes Thursday night footy, the MCG, Friday night footy, the MCG, you get excited. It's nice and warm in Melbourne. It's going to get very cold in a couple of months, but this is footy.
There is that, Zach. There's this talk about, we being too Vic-centric when they say, you've got to have it. Victoria's the home of football.
Ah.
You've got to have a game at the MCG to be opening the round. And I'm yet to see the metrics that really deliver, hey, this is exactly what we need to be doing with opening round.
Yeah, this feels like the start of the season, doesn't it? It was nice. It whet the appetite last week. Saw a couple of good games and that was lovely. But this is the real stuff. Traditional season opener, Carlton Tigers, Thursday night MCG. Can't wait.
Now, while we've been sitting here twiddling our thumbs, Kate McCarthy, of course, been wedded to her beautiful partner, Kate as well. Kate squared. Which you always get the difficult thing here. Do you take the name and you both become Kate McCarthy?
It's a good question. I don't know the answer to that.
One of the expert conversationalists. One of the best you'll ever run across, Nathan
If you
Brown.
get married, I wouldn't be taking Von Hoff.
Yeah, that is actually a worry.
But she does look beautiful.
She does look absolutely fantastic, and so does the In the Back Pocket logo that we've switched to right over there as I go to turn around. Let's jump into Thursday night football right now, because a lot of people talking this game up as potentially being a tough one to watch, especially for the Tigers fans. Very rarely do we see a double-digit odds outsider in round one. Well, we saw it last year, but then it had been a long time before then that we've seen it. And the line is absolutely massive, sitting at 49.5 there. It's tough to find an angle for the Tigers.
Looking at the winning margin spreads here, wouldn't you? I'm expecting 60 plus. If you want to play it a bit safer, you could go the line. But there's so many young kids. It is young kids against men. Yes, the Tigers have some midfielders who have got some size about them. But as the game goes on, I just feel like Carlton are going to pull away. Richmond might start well. And at quarter time, you might go, oh, gee, this young Richmond side's going to go okay. But as the game goes on, it's going to get further and further out. And I'm tipping 60 plus.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to be a tough one for the Tigers. They're very much at a different phase of their development than this Carlton side. This Carlton side could do worse than sending a message early. We know it's going to be a tough year for Richmond, but they need to take the chance to bully a team that's bullied them over the last few years. And I'm with Browny. I expect this to be a poor game for the neutrals, but a great one for the Blues.
Harry Mackay, no Charlie Curnow in this one.
He's going to be there, wouldn't he?
He would be absolutely looking at it right now.
Charlie's out of my way. It's all about big Harry. 3, 4, 5. If he's got his kicking boot, it could be 7 or 8. So I'm not sure who he gets down there, but everything will be funneled through Harry. Someone is going to have a day out, whether it's Kemp, whether it's Zach Williams. Somebody will kick a bag.
Well, the interesting thing for me as well, in 2023, Harry Mackay kicking at 37%. It was all over the news. He got the yips. He wasn't kicking well. Last year, back up to 58%. Now, he hasn't kicked a huge amount of bags across his career, mostly because he's ending games 3 goals 4, 3 goals 5. Now that he's got that accuracy up, I can really see that he could potentially, especially with Curnow out, absolutely load it up against a very, very tough, tough defence there.
Absolutely. Like it.
Your best bet?
A lot. Hey?
Your best bet?
For him? Oh, well, he took my best bet. I do like Paddy Cripps' disposal line. So I changed mine to go Harry Mackay 3 goals.
Well, let's jump over there, because there was a bit of drama in the WhatsApp group when you guys were going forth.
There was no drama. I got in before him with Crippa 30 plus, and then he said, I'll also do Crippa 30 plus. No, you won't. Patrick Cripps, look, he's the best in the business. I just think this guy is, he's done everything, and he's coming up against an undersized, inexperienced midfield. I expect the inexperienced Tigers to want to spend some time on Crippa, and there'll be a lot of energy when they're playing on him, but I think he's too big and too good, and I expect him to walk over the 30 disposal mark.
Also made him the captain of my super coach team this week, Crippa.
I did see you making that in the cafe
so
before.
You get the double points, Crippa for me. Taking Dacos out, put Crippa in.
Nice, love it. Dacos just cramps once and you take him out of your super coach?
I'll put him back in next week. This is Crippa-centric.
There we go. Quick Crippa-centric. Of course, the Tigers as well struggled with contested possessions last year. They showed no signs of improving that going into this year. I'm taking Carlton at the line. I've ebbed and flowed with this one, but I just think by the end of the game, so many kids running out there, they're just not going to be able to gas to run with them. You're getting $4, and you can follow us on the feed in the back pocket. You've got it all right there. A big Friday preview coming up next. Hello and welcome to In the Back Pocket, where we have assembled the greatest minds in footy, and they've assured me they're not too far away, just stuck in traffic at the moment. But for the time being, Nathan, about 40 minutes.
Disrespectful to our new man here.
Even had it written down. Zach Toohey, Nathan Brown. Zach, your second week on the panel. How are you feeling it?
Better than it was last week. Turns out you're not as bad as you look on TV. It's all going very well.
Also, good week for your sheep because you kept the wool in storage. We still haven't got the air conditioning fixed, but you're looking good this week in a bit of linen.
It's better. I was tempted to chuck on a big heavy one for shits and giggles, but I didn't think it was a good idea.
Now, Browny, there's a lot of footy shows going on at the moment. But I do think I very much enjoy the Sunday footy show. And as much
Tough
as
to get cut through.
It is very tough, especially the man you're sitting next to. Now, they're trying to drive a wedge between us. I did notice that. But there was something else I noticed when you put a few tennis balls on TJ's head, but you added one extra with a bit of force. Let's have a look at this.
Just let it go. We are going to drop it right now.
You can't tell that's me.
No.
Why did you do that?
Because the ball. What do you think?
Oh, he wasn't happy either.
No, he
From
wasn't
all
happy.
reports, he was not a happy
Apparently
customer.
left a bruise too.
Poor form. You're better than that.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not at all.
It certainly isn't. And now we've got a tennis ball in set for the entire thing as well. Let's jump right into it because your takeaways from opening round. Now, we've got a lot of opinions on whether it should be opening round or whether it shouldn't, but let's keep it somewhat footy related at the moment. You kick us off.
So my takeaway from a punting point of view was you take the halfback flankers at 25 plus or the defenders. So Blakey had 26, albeit 11 of those were kickouts. Amon 27, Roberts 26, Whitfield 26, Dacos 28 and Ash 25. So the defenders don't often get over 30, but 25 plus is your spot to play.
Love it. Zach, where were you looking?
Yeah, there was a lot of love for the Hawthorn mids in particular, as there should have been. I thought Dale was exceptional. Newcomb doing his thing. Lloyd Meek, I thought, was a real difference maker on the night. He was exceptional. He beat Grundy, who was a Premier Ruckman, albeit looks a bit underdone, in almost every category. The only one he didn't dominate was the hit-outs, which might be the most bloated start in the game.
Massive human, isn't he?
Massive human, more disposals, more clearances, was getting down, getting his own footy. I thought, when you look at the mids doing as well as they're doing at Hawthorn, I think you can thank Lloyd Meek.
Pretty big howler as well. Didn't even feature in the coaches' votes across this game. And as a Swans fan,
dogs, he'd be a Great Dane. You know how big they are compared to every other dog. No?
just got a bit of. I just wanted to give you a bit of your own treatment there. Just letting your joke fall flat. You enjoy that one?
No.
There we go. Let's have a look at the market. Small drift up the top for Nick Dacos. Will Day, the big mover, $34 into 13 at Finn Callahan, the big money man, $81 all the way into 26. A bit of hype already taken over, Brownie.
So the big question for me is Finn Callahan played a great game. He's a beautiful player, but does he have the longevity all season to be that consistent to win a Brownlow? Same thing with Will Day. He's had his injury concerns. He'll probably get tagged a bit. So still happy. Nick Dacos gets out to 6. I just think it's a good price.
Yeah, good price. I think Will Day is going to have to get used to being tagged. He got tagged in the second half of the game. It did diminish his output a fair bit. Genuine superstar. He's going to be a long-term prospect. It wouldn't surprise me if he finished his career with a Brownlow. I think this year might be a little bit early.
Big call. There we go. Now, the round one multi is one that I've just cooked up myself here, and I want to ask you guys, have got plenty of games under the belt. Would you rather have played opening round and be one up on the team coming in, or be coming fresh into this first opening round? Do you reckon the teams that have already had a game under the belt, will they have an advantage over the teams this week coming in first up?
I think context matters a little bit. If you take Geelong, for example, I don't think a trip up to Brisbane for the first game is ideal. I don't think that game being pushed back is the worst thing for Geelong, so they might say they're quite happy to be first up this week, albeit against another team who's first up. Having a win under your belt is always a good thing. If I was just choosing on a blank slate, I would like to get out early and get a game under my belt.
There we go. So you made fun of my multi beforehand, and there we go.
I did.
We got it. Zach
Good multi,
Tui's
well
gone
done.
with it. Superstar. Well, let's have a look at Friday night footy, because this one, let's have a look at the report card. This could be the game of the round. We call this one the Golden Goose when we link up. And A, we're both giving it in profitability and watchability right here. We have a look at this. And A+, I'm saying one-hit wonder. That's why it's the watchability A ranking, because the Hawks, if they don't get this one, there's 100,000 footy shows going on at the moment. The people are going to start coming at them saying, hey, it was just an outlier in round one.
Completely agree. Watchability A, puntability A. So you look at Hawthorn and they are a good side to punt on at the moment. So they've got all the forwards, the small forwards who didn't get the job done last week. So they're not going to have a Sam Wicks lock away somebody at Hawthorn this week. So you look at the Bombers, they don't have the defenders apart from McGrath who might lock down on more. So I look at Watson and go, geez, there's a big opportunity. Didn't go anywhere near it last week. So he'd be just fever pitch this week to wanting to play well. And obviously Ginnivan didn't do much last week either. So I'm looking at the Hawthorn forwards to come to the full this week and play well.
Perfect. Plenty of these sort of small forwards. How much, when you go into this, you've got the key forwards, small forwards, how hard are these guys to guard?
Yeah, it's the way the game has trended. I think Richmond brought in this whole small fleet, whole team, fitness running aspect that a lot of teams have taken into their forward lines. Spent the whole first half of my career playing on small forwards, and it's an extremely anxiety-inducing role to have. They've got weapons everywhere. I think they had their colours lowered. Dylan Moore was very good last week, but I think the other two had their colours lowered, and they'll be ready to go this week. I expect them to have an impact.
They also seem, as a defender, some of the most annoying people to play against as well. For goal to celebration, extremities with the small forward seems to be through the roof.
Yeah, and they seem quite okay as people to do nothing for a game, kick one out the back at the end and think they're Billy Big Balls. So extremely frustrating people to play on, but they are match winners.
On the Don side, Zach Merritt, a guy that he seems, when you look across guys in the AFL, it's no surprise that he opens the seasons up with a bang, because he looks like a guy that really takes care of himself off the field.
First game of the year, last 4, he's averaged 32.5. So I like players that, when I'm punting on them early, I know what you're going to get. There's some players that are an 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10 one week, and then they're a 2 out of 10. Zach Merritt, I know he's going to give everything. He's going to play on ball as well. Does he get a tag? I don't think he does this week. I think Hawthorn just go out there and play. So that means Zach Merritt will fill them up, and he just gets so many handball receives, and then he's one to get the handball received, get it again. I'm happy to take Zach Merritt at 30 plus.
Yeah, I think somebody like Warple might have spent a little bit of time on him, but I agree. I think he's a bona fide superstar, one of the best captains in the league, spent a lot of time working on his leadership off-field. His defensive stuff improved dramatically over the last couple of years, so even if he weren't getting the ball, which I expect him to, he'll find ways of imposing himself on the game. But I agree, first game, he'll be firing.
Well, I've been excited for this one. Let's jump right into it, because in the world of footy, there's a lot of hot takes that aren't backed up by data. But there's one man who likes to keep everyone accountable, and that is Champion Data's very own Daniel Hoyne. Hoyne, welcome in. Some good sense brought to the program.
Great to be here. Really enthused about the year ahead. Friday night, Hawthorn Essendon, all my eyes are going straight to Nick Martin. So we've seen what he's done over the last couple of years. Last year, pretty much used across the halfback line, top 50 rated player in the comp. 2023, used across the wing area, top 25 rated player in the competition. Now it looks like Brad Scott is going to deploy him in the forward half of the ground. And you can probably see why. Essendon's connection going inside 50 last year, bottom 4 for actually turning an entry into a score. They had no issues in terms of actually getting it in there, but their ability to be able to score off the back of that was a problem. This guy last year, 4th best kick in the competition going inside forward 50. So what he does this Friday night and throughout the 2025 campaign is going to be of interest moving forward.
So what I see here is we're potentially losing value a little bit if we're one who likes to take the over in the disposals market, but for goals, we're going to find some. We'll start in the disposals line. You'd probably want to be going based off that info more towards the under.
So unders on Nick Martin, forward of the centre, lot harder, not taking the kick-outs as well.
Yeah, don't expect him to get 30 plus like he did on a regular basis, but I think the damage that he's going to have from 20 to 25 is going to maximise Essendon's ability to be able to get a scoreboard return. So he's not going to get those, uncontested, a lot of those disposals in the back half like he has done in previous campaigns.
I think good for the Bombers, but a watch if you're punting. If you're punting on Nick Martin, I reckon it's a watch first week to see how much forward he plays, how many possessions he gets, and it might be one where you even look at the unders. So, look, he might go back to halfback at some point and take a few kick-outs, but at the moment it's a watch on me for Nick Martin.
The goal, Zach, is the one that I look at there. You look 3+ goals is getting pretty juicy around there at $9.50. Sometimes we get a little bit carried away with this. Where would you sort of sit around that range?
He kicked a bag against us in his debut, I remember, round 1 a few years back. Yeah, and had 26 maybe to go with it. So he's certainly capable. I see him as a bit of a facilitator for the rest of the team. If he's being played in that position to improve the entrance inside forward 50, I suspect he'll be lowering his eyes a lot. So he'll kick more goals. I'm not sure a bag of 5's on the cards.
Who was responsible for the 26 and 5? Who was on him?
I was on the wing. I haven't played on an opponent in 8 or 9 years, so I couldn't tell you.
Would you want your best kick, a quick one, coming off halfback? Would you want it through the midfield, getting into 50?
Through the midfield. I think the most important kick is the one where it narrows into the ground. So obviously at halfback you've got so much more space. As it narrows a bit, you need your elite kicks.
Yeah, I agree. Middle of the ground into the forward half.
Perfect. There we go. That's Friday Night Footy covered. Hoyne, don't you go anywhere. We're going to get you. We're paying you for 2 segments and we're going to get it. We'll see you soon. Welcome everybody to In the Back Pocket, all thanks to Sportsbet Nathan Brown, Zach Tui to take you through Saturday and Sunday worth of footy. Now fellas, during the week, Toby Green, he's a hard-nosed competitor. He's now broken the record for the most fines in AFL history, sitting around $44,000. And it reminded me of the time where you proclaimed, Browny, that you were the most fined media member in history.
Most fined?
Most fined.
media man in history.
You've said on Triple M, now you might be getting called out here because maybe you faked it on Triple M, but you've got more parking fines than anyone else. And you had to go on a payment plan.
You could have told me what you're talking about. Yeah, I am. The sheriff got me in Queen Street, just down the road. They said, we're going to lock up your car if you don't come down and sort it out. I had to pay $4,800 up front and then go on a payment plan after that.
You had a pretty good AFL career. You really had to go on a payment plan? I think that's meant for people who are a little hard up on it.
Well, everything's a negotiation. Life's a negotiation. And the young lady doing it was good enough to say, well, what about a payment plan? I said, absolutely.
Well, if you're going to get a parking ticket, you probably don't want to get caught in a certain type of car. Now, you had to run out the other day and you were rolling around in a pink G-Wagon, Nathan.
That is pink, a G-Wagon. Gee, it's a nice looking car, isn't it? It is pink, I must admit. When I say it's pink, people think of Barbie pink, but it's like a deep sort of purpley pink.
I don't know, it's looking a bit Barbie
And
pink.
my man Haas, who's got whiter teeth than you, works down at Cavallo Prestige. He said, what are you up to today? I said, it's Christina's birthday, my wife. I said, we're going out for lunch. He goes, I've got the best car for you to impress her. I said, well, I've already impressed her, we're already married, so I'm going okay. And I thought it was going to be a black G-Wagon, but it was a pink G-Wagon, but thanks very much to Haas.
You wouldn't catch a Defender rolling around a car like that, would you? A hard-nosed.
Maybe overcompensating there, Browny, with the G-Wagon. I'm not sure, but I'm a Ute Ranger type operator, more of a blue collar sort of.
That's what I thought. I think that's why we get along.
Yeah. What was the total figure, by the way? If 4,800 was your upfront, what was the total figure?
Ended up being 18. So I took a payment plan of the balance.
We're going to talk to Hoyne from Champion Data, and maybe he can crunch the numbers a little bit later on how many fines that is, because you're looking at about $90 a fine.
Well, it moved a couple of times, and then a little bit of laziness on my part, and then they add up. Like they go from $90 to 150
Yeah,
to
nice.
200.
Well, let's chat footy anyway. Let's just jump into the footy there on that one. Thanks for that, Brownie. The match of the weekend here, the grand final rematch, Sydney and Brisbane. What a rematch it is, because Sydney, they were towed up in the grand final. Now, with the rematches, the last three have been won by the reigning premier. You're someone who's taken place in one of these. Is it all mental? I would always think that the runner-up is always the one that's going to come out harder, but history says that's certainly not the case.
Yeah, you expect it to be a really emotional game. It's two good teams playing, so it's going to be emotional at the best of times. Sydney didn't cover themselves in glory last week, and obviously the grand final didn't go the way they would have liked. So you expect them to come out and be breathing fire. I have my sights set on the Lions. I think it's going to be a repeat of the grand final. The Lions get it done.
So you've gone back 3 years for history.
Yeah.
Competition's gone for 128. You just thought maybe I'll just do the last three and roll a stat out.
I've got a certain amount of time allotted for in the back pocket each week, and unfortunately, that's as far as I can go. But both of these teams are crying out for a key forward presence, and you think you've found one potentially for the Lions.
What does life look like after Joe? Well, it looks like Logan Morris, because I love what he did last year, even with Joe in the team. And take you to the finals, 3 of the 4 games he kicked 2+ goals, 2+ goals in the grand final. And they think he's ready to go, ready to explode up there. Eric will still play the role that he played, but I just like Logan Morris. His goals early in the season, you're getting value out of it. If he kicks 2 or 3 this week 1, I don't think those prices will last.
We spoke on the season preview, before the episode before the season preview, about not only losing, you can replace goals. But Joe Danaher was a guy that kicked big goals at big moments. You know, it was sometimes 2 heading into the last quarter, in the last quarter itself. Who do you think replaces that sort of X factor for the Lions?
I think they've got a wonderful spread of players who on their day could kick a few goals. So you've got obviously Cameron Archie now in the forward line, looks really good overhead. Rayner when he goes forward, Bailey Loman. You can keep 1 or 2 of these guys quiet for a game. That's not unusual, but it's very unlikely you're going to keep them all quiet. And provided that Morris can create that contest, maybe Eric as well, make it somewhat predictable for the forward line. They've also just lost Lincoln McCarthy, by the way, which is a devastating loss for him. He's a wonderful guy. So, but the rest of those guys, they can pick up the slack. And I expect this forward line to be one of the more potent ones in the league.
Back to the mids. James Jordan did a fantastic job in the second half against Will Day. Looks to get the job on Lachie Neale this week.
Well, I think Dean Cox would look at it and go, I waited too long last week. He had 3 and kicked 3 and had 16, and after half time, as you said before, he quelled his influence. So you look at this game, who's going to take it away from the middle? It is Lachie Neale. And James Jordan played him at the Gabba last season, kept him to 18. So you don't want to go 0-2. To stop Lachie Neale dishing the football out is a big start for Sydney. James Jordan has to go to him for me. So I'm taking the disposal line under. Look, Lachie Neale, if he's left to his own devices, he will go over that. But I'm banking on the tag being there and take under 27.5.
Quick one. Even if the Swans were to drop this one, that'd be the Hawks and Brisbane, 2 very, very good contenders in round 1 and 2. There's no alarm bells with Dean Cox or the Swans this early.
Not when you've played those two good sides who are expected, a lot of people think, finish top 4.
Yeah, and the manner of the losses does matter as well. It was a pretty good contested game last week. If this is the same and they don't quite get over the line, I wouldn't be moving off Sydney if you were on them before the start of the season. If it trends worse over the next few weeks, you might reconsider, but I'm not panicking.
And they were genuinely coming to last week when Ollie Florent kicked across the ground, they kicked the goal. That was the end of the game.
That was an entirely personal question as well as a Swan supporter. I just needed you to put my mind at ease. So thank you very much for that. It's time to welcome in Hoyne back from Champion Data. Now the Swans, the forward line is one that we've been talking about all year. We've got a couple of guys out, but Chad Warner could be the solve.
Yeah, really interesting watch with where Chad Warner was actually positioned on Friday night against the Hawks. So last year, around about 24-25% of his game time was spent as a forward. Round 0 against Hawthorn, Dean Cox used him for almost half of his game time inside forward 50. He was really dynamic, 12 score involvements, 2 goals, appeared to be the most likely threat for Hawthorn. And I just think if you're looking at what Chad Warner does moving forward, if this is going to be permanent, don't expect him to be a high disposal winner. He wasn't an overly high disposal winner when he was playing 70, 80% midfield time. But now, if that time's going to get reduced, the impact from Chad Warner will still be there, but it will be there in different ways.
I pray that a time comes in the near future that we don't have to worry about mixing up round 0 and round 1 and we just get back to normalcy with this whole round 1 saga. Now, boys, as we've just heard there, are we buying or selling Chad Warner forward laying into the goals?
Absolutely, you're buying him to kick goals. Him and Isaac Heaney, who spend a fair bit of time. You hope that Dean Cox keeps him in that forward half of the ground because, as Hoyne said, disposals aren't big for Chad Warner, but gee, you can kick some goals up there on that small ground.
Yeah, he's one of those players that can do it everywhere, and a coach would love to have one in the middle and one up forward. I like the move of him forward. I think he's so dangerous in congestion. I think he plays like an elite small forward, even when he's in stoppages. So the move of him forward makes all kinds of sense to me.
Hoyne, Dan Houston finally making his debut for the Pies.
I think everyone in the footy world, especially in Victoria, will actually appreciate just how good of a footballer this guy is now that he's going to be playing for Collingwood. His ability to be able to use the ball across the ground, whether that's exiting D50, whether that's going inside forward 50, he's the best kick in the competition. The reason why Collingwood won the flag in 2023 was their ability to explode off the halfback area. Number 1 team in the competition at doing that. Completely shut down last year. They get this guy in who that is his absolute point of difference on the competition. So I would be expecting that Collingwood are going to want to get the footy in this guy's hand and get that asset back on the competition like it was in 2023.
Are we expecting Josh Dacos to play as much time half back as what he did last week?
I would be. I reckon if I'm Collingwood, I'm utilising the Josh Dacos and Dan Houston as the 2 weapons behind there that would cause opposition teams headache in match committee. How do we shut these guys down? Josh Dacos was a little bit exposed defensively against those small forwards for GWS on the weekend, only 1 game in to the 2025 campaign. But these 2 could provide a significant threat on opposition teams in 2025.
Do you reckon, now he's out due to suspension, so obviously he's all healthy, are you rolling in first game out plus 23.5?
It's a watch for me. First game, new team, 23.5. That's around where I'd expect, but I don't have a big opinion over under. I'd like to have a watch on him first up.
We should have brought Browny in for episode 2 because we've had a watch on a couple of things. Just watch him go around round 1 and then move into it.
Gambling responsibly, Felix.
Hoyne, James Peatling, new recruit for the Crows. He's looking to come in, and from all reports from the numbers you've chucked here, looks to be a bit of a bull.
Yeah, so if you just cast your mind back to the 2024 final series, week 1, he had Errol Goulden for the first three quarters of that final. Errol Goulden, lowest rated player on the ground for Sydney. They released that tag for some reason in the last quarter. Goulden goes bananas. Cast your mind back to that semi-final against Brisbane. He gets thrown to Dane Zorko. Fascinating battle. Peatling gets forward, kicks 2 goals. Zorko loses the plot at times. I would expect that this guy on Sunday, coming up against St Kilda, there's 2 reasons why St Kilda can challenge Adelaide. That's Jack Sinclair and that's Nasiah Wanganeen-Malira. I would expect that he goes to either one of those 2 on Sunday, clamp them out, clamp St Kilda out and make sure that Adelaide actually get the job done on Sunday afternoon.
Love it, Hoyne. Fantastic work. Finally, some data that can go along with the hot takes going on. Thank you very much for joining us. All thanks to Champion Data.
Doesn't it?
I know. You know what? There was a point there where I was ready to run through Dan Houston chat. I was ready to run through a brick wall. I reckon there is a bit of coach in Hoyne at some point.
I'll get you one later and we can see how you go.
Stands out a bit when someone makes sense.
It does, yeah, which
it's really
is
noticeable. So.
Could be a bit of a knock towards us. Let's have a look at our Saturday best bets across the card. We're going to start off with you, Browny.
Well, I listened to Zach Tui last week. Max Holmes is going to be the man at Geelong this year. 24.5 through the midfield. That's his disposal line. You can take 25 plus, obviously, but the run and carry early in the season, it's going to be hot down there. So I'm all over Max Holmes this week.
Yeah, it's Tyson Stengel for me. I think he had a really underrated year last year. I thought he should have been pretty close to an All-Australian last year. He was kind of back to his 2022 best. Have it on good authority, he's flying. He kicks 2 goals almost every game he plays at GMHBA, and I expect him to do it again.
We're going Geelong-centric on this one. I'm Geelong 1-39 against Freo. I just think Freo are a very good team. They play very well at GMHBA. The best record of all visiting teams there, of course. So I'm taking 1-39. Geelong still win. What makes GMHBA such a fortress to play against? Because, you know, a lot of teams are still getting big crowds. Is it just the fact that they're all over you? Is it the fact that they're all from Geelong? What's the deal?
Yeah, the crowd obviously plays a huge part. People talk a lot about the dimensions at GMHBA. It is a cigar shaped, it's extremely skinny but very, very long, and that can take some getting used to. The Cats train there all week, every week, so they have it down pat. And they're a pretty good team over the last 10 or 15 years.
Yeah.
It kind of adds to it as well.
Yeah.
Sometimes we can look around the point and just find it. You can see your multi right there. You can follow in the back pocket on the feed to be able to catch that one as well. Now, we've got a couple of burning questions as well that we've got here. And the first one here is player preparation. Now, there's been a lot of talk about Nick Dacos cramping in the first game. I think the only reason we're talking about that mainly is because it's Nick Dacos. There were plenty of guys that cramped, and he did miss a little bit of that with injury. But there's talking here, is there too much time off for players?
Well, back when I started, you had 4 to 6 weeks off and you were straight back into it. Nowadays, they're 10 to 12 weeks, but I think the more time we can give players off, the more trust we have to put in them. So if there's players that you trust and there's players that you probably need to bring back a bit earlier, but if you're going to have players play the whole season without getting injured, I think you need that extra time off. Don't worry about Nick Dacos. That was an anomaly.
Yeah.
I think he'll be fine next week. It was just a hot day. Those things can happen. Look, Nick Dacos will bounce back. I'm happy with the time off the players get.
Yeah, I agree completely. And Nick Dacos, of every player in the league, you would not be worried about him misusing his downtime. I think you can give him a bit of a free swing for everything he's done so far in his career. And I actually expect him to dominate this week. That's the type of character he is. But I think they get not enough time off.
But there was only one person who questioned him. And that was your mate Kane.
Yeah, Kane is a close personal friend of mine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking that'd be brutal if you had a Kane fresh off playing and sat on a show, your first show, saying the players are getting too much time off. They need to get back in. They get paid too much. Too much time off. You wanted more time. So there we go. We're working that one. What about soft tissue injuries? Because it seems, and maybe it's highlighted by the fact that, you know, Bont, Errol Goulden, there's been some sort of high-level guys getting injured in this pre-season. Yeah. Are we seeing more and more of these across the board? It just reminds me when we talk about too much time off. It feels like these days we're getting more of these injuries, or are players just looking after their bodies, not like you used to do and just whack the cortisone in and run out?
Errol broke his ankle, so that was always going to be a tough one for the soft tissue. But Bontempelli, in fairness to the Western Bulldogs, has never had an injury. Never had an injury. So this is the first time I think I can ever remember Marcus Bontempelli having a soft tissue injury. There's some players that get them and they need to do a lot of extra work, a lot of extra medical processes. And there's some blokes that never get a massage. There's some blokes that never see the physio. There's just some blokes built like that. Played with a guy called Brad Johnson, played 365 games, can never ever remember Jono getting injured. But then some players played 200, maybe missed 4 seasons because of soft tissue injuries. So it is how your body is made up and then how much work put into it if you do have a susceptible body.
Yeah, and players and lists are operating right on the extreme. Like the point of every pre-season is to push yourself further, a little bit further than you did last season, and sometimes this can be a byproduct of wanting it a little bit too much. I'm not too worried yet. Clubs are pretty good at figuring this stuff out.
We've seen something emerge. Now, you did throw a tennis ball at our previous host's head.
Under your direction.
Yeah, under my direction. There we go. I didn't know you were a snitch, Zach, but we're finding that out early as well. The dark arts are pushing opponents into packs. We're just seeing that happen a little bit. It can become very dangerous. Is that something that you sort of advise to do? Is it something you want to see out of the game?
Everything in the game can be dangerous. It's a physical game, and there should be an element of danger that stays. I mean, that's what makes it impressive that somebody can run back with a flight, is that it is dangerous, and that's why we respect guys who do it. It's like anything, there's levels. You can grade these things. Some pushes are a little bit more obvious than others, but this, to me, feels like one of the trends that we sometimes see in the game where we'll focus on it for a few weeks and then it'll go away. I'm not worried about it, and I don't want too much action taken just yet.
I don't think any player specifically pushes someone to, I'm going to push them into another player. Sometimes you're at the back of the pack and there's quite a big pack and you can push a player hoping the umpire doesn't see it. Now, you don't know what's going to happen to that player. He might go into somebody else, but I don't think there's anyone that specifically goes, I'm going to push him into another player player to try and take him out.
Spoken like a true defender as well. Is there anything back when you played, because you played when the game was a little less sort of...
Tougher.
Tougher is what we'll go with. Are there any of those sort of little dark art stuff that you've seen
I played against
throughout the game
Archer and
now?
those sort of guys, so yeah, tougher. Sorry, I missed your question. Go again.
Very good. We're going to be back in not too long. Thank you, Daniel Hoyne, for joining us
Hoyne.
as well. Hoyne, who is affectionately known from Champion Data. We got plenty more coming up, and as well, Kate McCarthy. She's going to be back next week. It is all happening. We'll see you in not too long. Hello, welcome back to In the Back Pocket. Two of the best in the business, Nathan Brown and Zach Toohey. Now, something you said just before we went on air just pricked my ears. You said you had a Swiss military watch, and the Switzerland is a country that is politically neutral.
Yes.
I'm wondering how that's a military watch.
Ever been to Switzerland? No idea what Switzerland do or what their proclivities are, but I bought this as a gift to myself after I beat Kane Corns up in the ring, and if you'd like to keep going, I can show you how I did it.
There we go. You know what? I know it's good for me, and I'll keep going on here. Also, this is going to be your first St. Patrick's Day coming up where you're not playing footy and it's during season. How are you going to spend it?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm really keen to get out and kind of enjoy the festivities. I'm not sure it'll happen. I'll have to get permission off the boss, and she's not usually open to midweek banter. So I'll enjoy it. I'll chill out at home. Kids are in school. Maybe go and play some golf.
Oh, there we go. From what I know of Irish people, midweek banter usually ends up with quite the hangover there. So let's jump right into it there. The Sunday report card. The game we got coming up here, the Adelaide Crows taking on the Saints. Now, the watchability for me, it's a C. I don't think it's going to be a great game, but your 3 words or less, full support of the board, because Matthew Nix, he may be coaching for his career in the first month of the season, so there's a nice little extra storyline on it for me.
And the puntability for me is a C as well, so you don't know what you're going to get from St Kilda. You're not sure what the makeup of their side forward's going to be, and Adelaide are a big watch for me as well. I think Adelaide will do a lot better this year. I'm tipping them to play finals football. I expect them to win this game, but puntability, C. Doesn't excite me too much.
What do you see in the head-to-head for this one? Anything jump out at you?
I was really excited about Adelaide last year. As an opposition player, I expected them to be one of the teams that really climbed. It didn't happen last year. That can sometimes happen with younger teams and younger lists. I'm giving them another chance this year. I'm going in on them. I think they'll be very, very good. I think they'll be led by one of my favourite players in the competition, Jordan Dawson. I think he was a steal to get from Sydney. I didn't appreciate when he left Sydney to go to Adelaide just how good this guy was. But I think they will climb, and I do expect them to play finals too, and I think it'll be maybe a comfortable win for the Crows.
If they are going to climb it, if they are going to play finals, they need Darcy Fogarty to bag a few up front.
Well, they do. So Callum Wilkie, I feel like, is St Kilda's best defender. So he goes either to Thilthorpe or Tex Walker. I can't see him going to Fogarty. I just don't think the body shapes match up. So I think Fogarty maybe is the one that gets out of the loop.
We spoke about small forwards and how annoying they can be. Isaac Rankin, he's another guy where the celebration's right up here, but sometimes the game certainly matches that as well. How annoying was he to play against?
Yeah, I actually managed to dodge Isaac Rankin. Tom Stewart, believe it or not, who's critiqued for not always playing on somebody, used to get the matchup with Isaac Rankin. He is one of those guys that is as damaging in the middle of the ground and could be a dominant mid in his own right. I think he's too valuable in the front half to play full time in the mid. But yeah, he's probably a bona fide already.
Yeah.
Tell you what, you find a bit of value at 4 goals there for a guy that can explode if given the right temperature right there. $14 for 4 goals. It's quite a jump.
Big for Isaac Rankin, don't
That
they?
is quite a jump as well from 3 to 4 if you manage to snag an extra one. But let's go Melbourne and GWS as well. Let's have a look at the report card where we're playing in this one. Watchability, I absolutely love this because it's Drake versus Kendrick. For those who followed the rap beef, fake love versus real love in Kendrick. Drake's fake love for Browny. I know you listen to Light FM a little bit more instead of the rap stuff, but I don't like what I've seen from Melbourne in the pre-season with all the we love each other. They're coming up against a team in GWS who genuinely seems like one of the closest knit teams in the league.
Drake, the company that used to sponsor Melbourne. They used to like Drake on the jumper.
No, don't. Drake.
Yes,
Drake.
they've had a beef with Kendrick Lamar.
I missed that. So sorry to Drake and who? Lamana.
Kendrick Lamar. Yeah, Lamar.
All right, Melbourne. They just have to win this game first up. And the Giants played so well last week, but you get Petrarca back, you get Clayton Oliver back, and Max Gawn is the man to make a statement. He's the one that they stand behind, and we're watching some highlights of their midfielder. They're going to be very hard to beat the way they run and carry, but for me, Max Gawn, when he makes a statement of this football club, so Briggs is out. Briggs is out with concussion. He's going to be playing on Lockie Keefe for the best part of 4 quarters. 21.5 his disposal line is. I'm just keen on Max Gawn to go over that.
Yeah, the best in the business, and I still think he's the best in the business. Obviously slightly ageing now, but he's as good as we've ever seen. Melbourne, for me, are an interesting one. On paper, we understand that midfield is as good as there is in the league. Slightly had the colours lowered last year. I do expect them to bounce back, but I'm really bullish on this GWS team. I think they can go really deep this year.
Josh Kelly, 36 disposals last week. I hardly noticed him at the end of the game. You look at it, 36, wow. And he's a pretty good price for 25 plus. Did you play on him in your recent time on the wing?
Yeah, spent a little bit of time on Josh on the wing. Yeah, he's a smooth mover. He's kind of that Rolls-Royce type that you see a few clubs have. Extremely damaging. I get what you're saying about last week's game. I would not be letting him off the leash again like they did last week.
Plus, with Tom Green out at the moment, he plays more of an inside role. So sometimes he's pushed out to the wing, sometimes even half forward. But with Tom Green, he goes inside, a lot more disposal. So I'm happy to back Josh Kelly again.
Certainly doesn't feel priced in there as well if we look towards the 30 plus at $3.50 again, finding some good value in the mid-range there. Christian Petrarca has been the story of the off-season. Brand Petrarca, all of this sort of stuff. He's a guy that takes his off-seasons very, very seriously. He was over there in I believe the Swiss mountains where they got your watch from, doing some sort of high altitude session. He probably did. It'd be a very nice one with the contract that he's on. Is he a guy that you can see exploding in this first game of the year?
Absolutely. He's another man who wants to make a statement, as well as Clayton Oliver. Look, if Oliver, Petrarca and Gawn, and it's very easy to say if they all play well, Melbourne win, but they will go a hell of a long way. Christian Petrarca, he has spent a long time watching. He has spent a long time defending himself. He's spent a long time thinking, what do people think of me? So the only way he could answer that is the way he plays his football. I think he's in for a big game first up.
Quick straw poll. If you've kicked a goal against Melbourne after the siren, put your hand up.
Stop, guys. I'm just a regular guy. I'm not a hero.
Yeah,
okay?
It's weird that you put it in the rundown for me to bring up.
I called this game too. So hands up if you've called one.
Oh, fantastic work. I was wondering why I had that thing on.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
you were very good that night.
Yes.
How did you give it? Did you call the final play?
Oh, I think that's what I just said. I called it. Like, what part of that didn't you understand?
The one thing about footy is there's 7 callers in the box. It's
I think
unlimited
I
money.
went with Zach Tui. You are a superstar.
Oh, geez, that's creative. That's your really.
He agreed.
I've been saying that about myself for years.
Yeah, you
That's
must have
someone
had a
agrees.
real Shakespearean quote there from you.
I'm going to get that audio next week.
Let's keep this one going because we've got West Coast taking on the Gold Coast. And Zach, I just want to ask you if you know what this word means here. Hodophobia.
It's an old wooden ship, I believe.
Close. Very, very close. You know what? I would fear travelling in an old wooden ship. Hodophobia, yes. I would fear travelling in an old wooden ship. It means people that are scared of travel. And that's how I'm describing this game because I'm locked into Gold Coast on the road this year because, again, it's a little narrative that we've got to go to add to it. So I give this one a B.
It's good that you learn something new every day, and I'm glad I know now what hodophobia is. But my best bet of the round and the best value of the round comes up in this one, and it is Ben King. So when you play against a side and you know you've got a good record against them, you get excited when the game's coming up. So the last 4 times he's played against them, he's kicked a minimum 3+. So that means he's kicked more than 3 on one occasion, which was 4.
Yeah, makes
so
sense.
no Barris, and he comes up for 3+ goals at 275, even 4, even 5. But best bet of the round for me at a little bit of value, 275, Ben King 3+.
The Eagles have escaped, and maybe it's because they're over there in WA and we can get a bit Vic-centric. They've got some decent names coming into the side, albeit still very, very young and raw. Do you think that there's going to be some early impact?
Yeah, of course there will. There always is with young, fresh teams. I'm really excited about Gold Coast, and this is a terrible time to play Gold Coast, by the way. The first 4 or 5 weeks of the season, they're always flying. They've always been an elite running side, high energy. In the past, that has worn off later in the season. We'll have to wait and see if they can hang on to it. I expect West Coast to do themselves justice, but I do think Gold Coast will have a little bit too much for them.
Is it a fail if Gold Coast don't play finals?
Yeah, it has to be. We can't keep saying they're coming next year, And I expect them to play well for long periods of this year, which they've done in the past, and then it's completely fallen apart. Fix up their away from home form.
How do you do that? Like, just a quick one. How do you actually, because it's, for me, that's just a mental thing. Do you stay an extra night in the hotel? How do you actually go about fixing that?
Well, playing away from home is obviously harder, is the first thing, but it can become a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy, and it can start as just a slight statistical anomaly. You're just a poor side away from home. Then everybody talks about it, and they are a young team. They're probably quite impressionable. When the narrative is just that you cannot play away from home, I suspect it became self-fulfilling. They're starting from scratch this year, set the tone early, and win away from home.
Well, you've gone the early cry and you've gone early, but your Sunday best bets, let's roll through them. Brownie?
Yes, Ben King for me, 3+, 275. You're getting a very good price. I've backed him for 3+ personally, 4+ and 5+.
Jordan Dawson, as I just touched on, one of my favourite players in the league, has been for a few years, averages just about 25. I expect him to hit that at least against the Saints.
Love it. I'm going the Gold Coast line overall in this one. I think Gold Coast are a much better team than West Coast. The line sitting at 10.5 for me.
Small, doesn't it?
It does seem very small, but I think obviously priced in is their record last season away from home. So I am banking that one's just be able to be overcome a little bit there. You can follow the Same Game Multi. Remember, this is all on the feed, in the back pocket. We also got these fellas working on there as well. It's all happening. Ben King,
Been a good show.
Jordan Dawson.
Been a great show.
Fantastic show.
Yeah.
One of our best, considering we've only had 2.
Tough to pad when you get 20 seconds and you were already going in your
Master
intro.
conversationalist.
Outro.
Always better. There we go. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next week.
What's gambling really costing you? For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.